They say that children don't
You have been
understand death.
chosen.
They're wrong. I understood it perfectly when I was 12 years old, standing in the council hall,
You're here to
listening to Elder
die.
Marcus explain why I had to die. The rogues demand tribute, he said, his voice echoing off stone walls.
Fear not, child.
They've given us
I
a
am
choice.
here.
Sacrifice one Omega child, or they attack the entire
Receive
pack.
this sacred gift, child.
One life for
Feel it,
500.
goddess.
You
The
are
mathematics are
transformed.
simple. Simple?
You have
He said
been
it was
chosen.
simple. My name is Aria Moonwhisper, and I was 12 years old when my pack decided my life was worth less than theirs.
You're here to die.
I stood in the center of that hall, wearing my best dress, the blue one my mother had made for my birthday just 3 months before. I didn't
Fear not,
understand why
child.
the elders
I
had
am
summoned
here.
me until Alpha Thaddeus looked at me with those
Thank
cold
you.
green eyes and said,
Receive this
I'm
sacred
sorry,
gift,
child.
child.
but you've
Feel
been
it,
chosen.
goddess.
You are transformed.
Chosen. Like it was an honor instead of a death sentence. My mother screamed. I remember that sound. It's burned into my memory like a brand. She tried to run to me, but guards held her back. No! She shrieked. Not my baby. She's 12 years old. She's just a child. Which is precisely what the rogues demanded, Elder Marcus said coldly. A child sacrificed to prove we respect their power. If we refuse, they'll kill dozens of our children. This way, only one dies. It's mercy. Mercy. I learned that day that adults use beautiful words to make ugly things acceptable. Please, I whispered, my voice so small in that vast hall. I don't want to die. Please, I'll do anything. I'll work harder. There's nothing to be done, Alpha Thaddeus interrupted, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. The decision is made. You'll be taken to the border at midnight. The rogues it will be quick. Lies. I could see it in his face. It wouldn't be quick. Rogues didn't kill quickly. They tortured. Why me? I asked, tears streaming down my face. Why did you choose me? The silence that followed told me everything. Because I was an Omega. Because my father was dead, killed by those same rogues 2 years ago. Because my mother had no power, no status, no way to protect me. Because in their calculation of whose life mattered least, mine was at the bottom. Take her to the holding cell, Alpha Thaddeus ordered. Let her say goodbye to her mother. Then at midnight, we proceed. Guards grabbed my arms. I looked back at my mother, who was sobbing so hard she could barely stand. I love you, baby, she cried. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. I love you too, Mama, I said. And then they dragged me away to spend my last hours alive in a stone cell. Midnight came too soon. They dressed me in a white ceremonial robe, like a sacrifice to the old gods. Bound my wrists and ankles with silver chains that burned my skin, and loaded me into a cart like cargo. The journey to the border took an hour. An hour of knowing I was about to die. An hour of hoping maybe someone would rescue me. Maybe the Alpha would change his mind. Maybe my mother would find a way to save me. But no one came. When we reached the border, I saw the post. A thick wooden stake driven into the ground, with chains attached. This was where they'd leave me, tied up like bait for monsters. I'm sorry, little one of the guards said as he chained me to the post. He was young, maybe 19, with kind brown eyes that looked genuinely pained. This isn't right, but orders are orders. What's your name? I asked through my tears. Riker, he said quietly. Will you tell my mother that I was brave? I asked. His face crumpled. I'll tell her. Then they left. All of them. The guards, the warriors, the witnesses. They walked back toward pack territory and left me there in the dark forest, chained to a post, waiting for rogues to come tear me apart. I was 12 years old, and I'd never felt so alone. I don't know how long I sat there, maybe an hour, maybe 2. Time felt strange when you knew you were about to Die. And then I heard them. Howls in the darkness, getting closer. Rogues. 6 of them emerged from the shadows. Huge wolves with scarred pelts and eyes that glowed red with bloodlust. They circled me slowly, savoring my fear. One shifted to human form, a massive man with scars crisscrossing his face. "Well, well," he said, his voice like gravel. "They actually sent us the tribute." A little girl, all wrapped up like a present. "Please," I begged, pulling at the chains. "Please let me go. I'll do anything." "You're not here to bargain, little wolf," he said, kneeling in front of me. "You're here to die. And we're going to enjoy it." The other rogues circled closer, snarling. I screamed. Screamed for help that wasn't coming. Screamed for my mother. Screamed for anyone who might care that a child was being murdered in the forest. And then, the sky exploded with light. Silver light, so bright it turned night into day. The rogues yelped, stumbling backward, shielding their eyes. And she appeared. The moon goddess herself, standing between me and the rogues in physical, glowing form. She was impossibly tall, impossibly beautiful, made of moonlight and starlight, with eyes deep as the cosmos. "You dare," she said, her voice resonating with power that made the earth tremble. "To murder a child? An innocent? In my name?" The rogue who'd been speaking fell to his knees, his face white with terror. "Goddess, we didn't know. She's just a—" "Silence," the goddess commanded, and the rogue's mouth snapped shut against his will. She turned to me, and her expression softened. "Hello, little one," she said gently. "You've suffered enough." She raised her hand, and the silver chains binding me shattered into dust. I collapsed, and she caught me, holding me like a mother would. "Why?" I sobbed against her. "Why did they choose me? Why didn't anyone save me?" "Because this world has forgotten what matters," she said, stroking my hair. "Because power has become more important than compassion. Because those who should protect the vulnerable have become the predators." She pulled back, looking into my eyes. "Aria, I'm going to offer you a choice. You can die here tonight, quickly, painlessly, and find peace. Or you can live. But if you live, your life will be hard. You'll carry scars. You'll walk a difficult path. But you'll also have the power to make sure no other child suffers what you've suffered." "I want to live," I said immediately. "I want to make them pay." "Not pay," the goddess corrected gently. "That's revenge, and revenge is poison. But you can make sure this never happens again. You can become my judge. Can you do that? Can you choose justice over vengeance?" I thought about my mother, who couldn't save me. About all the other Omegas in the pack who lived in fear. About future children who might be sacrificed. "Yes," I said. "Justice. I'll be your judge." The goddess smiled. "Then sleep now, child. And when you wake, you'll be something more." She touched my forehead. Everything went silver. And the last thing I saw before unconsciousness claimed me was the 6 rogues being consumed by divine light. Not killed, but transformed. Their eyes turning from red to clear. Their violent nature purged by divine power. The goddess was showing mercy even to monsters. And I understood. That was the difference between justice and revenge. Chapter 1. 10 years gone. I woke in a sanctuary I'd never seen before. It wasn't pack territory. It was somewhere else. A hidden valley deep in unclaimed land, where wolves who'd been exiled or escaped came to find refuge. "Easy," a gentle voice said. "You're safe. You're at the haven." I opened my eyes to find an older woman sitting beside my bed. She had kind hazel eyes and gray-streaked brown hair. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice raspy. "My name is Elena," she said. I run this sanctuary for displaced wolves. The moon goddess brought you here 3 days ago, said you needed time to heal and grow, before you could fulfill your purpose. I sat up slowly. My wrists and ankles were bandaged where the silver chains had burned me. Am I different? I asked, remembering the goddess's promise. Elena smiled. Look. She handed me a mirror. My 12-year-old face stared back, but my eyes had changed. They had faint silver rings around the irises, and when I concentrated, I could see faint marks appearing on my skin. Crescent moons, barely visible, that glowed slightly in the dim light. You're a divine wolf, Elena said softly. The first the moon goddess has created in 500 years. You carry her power now, Aria, but you're still young, still learning. So you'll stay here, with me, until you're ready. How long? I asked. As long as it takes, Elena said. But I think... She touched my cheek gently. I think around 10 years, when you're 22, when you're strong enough, wise enough, and ready to face what comes next. 10 years. What about my mother? I asked, panic rising. She thinks I'm dead. She's mourning me. She is, Elena said sadly. And I'm sorry for that. But Aria, if your pack knew you survived, they'd try to kill you again. You're a threat now, proof that their sacrifice was wrong. They can't let you live, so for now, you have to let her believe you died. It's the only way to keep both of you safe. Tears burned my eyes. My mother thought her daughter was dead, killed by rogues, torn apart and eaten. 10 years, I whispered. And then I go back? Then you go back, Elena confirmed. And you deliver the justice the goddess chose you for. Those 10 years were the hardest of my life. Elena trained me in everything. How to fight, how to lead, how to use divine power without letting it consume me. How to discern truth from lies, how to heal and when to punish, how to be a judge instead of an executioner. I learned that divine power was seductive. It wanted to punish. It wanted to hurt those who'd hurt me. I had to learn restraint, to use power to protect, not destroy. I also learned about the other wolves at the Haven, dozens of them, all exiled or escaped from packs that had abused them. There was Marcus, who'd been exiled for refusing to execute his own sister for being a weak Omega. There was Lydia, who'd run away after her alpha tried to force her into mating with his cruel son. There was young Finn, only 14, who'd been abandoned by his pack for being disabled. His wolf was born with a limp that made him defective. Each story made me angrier. And each story reminded me why I had to be careful with that anger. Anger is fuel, Elena taught me. But fuel without control just burns everything down. Channel it. Use it to power justice, not vengeance. I practiced for years, learning to shift. My divine wolf was larger than normal, white with silver markings, just like the goddess herself. Learning to command other wolves, making them kneel or submit with just my authority. Learning to heal wounds with divine light. Learning to sense when someone was lying. But most importantly, learning when to show mercy and when to punish. The hardest part of being a judge, Elena said on my 18th birthday, is knowing that some wolves can change and some can't. Your job is to tell the difference. How do I know? I asked. You watch them, she said. You give them a chance to choose differently, and you see what they choose. If they choose the same cruelty again, you know? But Aria, always give the chance first. That's what separates justice from tyranny. By the time I turned 22, I was ready. I was strong, not just physically, but mentally. I understood power. I understood restraint. I understood that my job wasn't to get revenge on the pack that had sacrificed me. My job was to make sure they never sacrificed another child. It's time, Elena said on the morning of my 22nd birthday. She'd aged significantly in those 10 years. Serving the haven took a toll. The moon goddess came to me in a dream last night. She says you're ready. I looked at myself in the mirror. I'd grown from a terrified 12-year-old into a woman. Strong, confident, marked with divine power that showed in my silver-ringed eyes and the faint crescent marks on my arms. What if I fail? I asked quietly. You won't, Elena said, because you're not alone. Take Marcus, Lydia, and Finn with you. They've trained alongside you for years. They're your first pack, the wolves who follow the divine judge by choice, not force. I turned to her. Will I see you again? Elena smiled sadly. I don't know. I'm old, child. Running the haven has taken its years. But whether you see me again or not, know this. I'm proud of you. The scared little girl who arrived here 10 years ago has become exactly what the world needs. She hugged me tightly. Now go. Show them what they created when they tried to sacrifice an innocent. Chapter 2. The Return. The journey back to Redwood, pack territory, took 3 days. I traveled with Marcus, Lydia, and Finn, my first loyal followers. They'd all volunteered to stand with me, knowing we might be walking into danger. Are you ready for this? Marcus asked as we approached the border. He was 30 now, a skilled warrior who'd spent the last 10 years protecting the haven. I have to be, I said. As we crossed into Redwood territory, I felt it, the pack bonds that I'd been severed from 10 years ago. They were still there, faint echoes. Part of me would always be connected to this land, even though the pack had cut me loose. We didn't hide, didn't sneak. I walked straight toward the pack village, divine power radiating from every step. Wolves saw us coming. They started gathering, confused and alarmed. Unknown wolves entering pack territory was an act of war. By the time we reached the center of the village, we were surrounded by at least 100 wolves. Warriors, mostly, all shifted and ready to attack. Who are you? Someone demanded. State your business, or... I am Aria Moonwhisper, I said, my voice carrying with divine authority. 10 years ago, this pack sacrificed me to rogues. Left a 12-year-old child chained in the forest to be torn apart. But the moon goddess had other plans. Shocked whispers rippled through the crowd. The Moonwhisper girl is dead, someone said. The rogues killed her. We found the blood. You found what the goddess wanted you to find, I said, because I did die that night. The terrified child you sacrificed died in those woods. But the moon goddess raised her back, made her something more, made her a divine judge. I let divine power flare, silver light crackling around my body. My eyes blazed silver. The crescent marks on my arms glowed bright. Every wolf in the clearing dropped to their knees. They didn't choose to. Their wolves recognized divine authority and forced submission. Where is Alpha Thaddeus? I demanded. Where is Elder Marcus? Where are the wolves who voted to murder a child? Here. The crowd parted. Alpha Thaddeus emerged, now older, maybe 55. His dark hair shot through with gray. Behind him came Elder Marcus, still cold-faced despite being forced to kneel by divine power. And then I saw her, my mother. She'd aged so much in 10 years. Her brown hair was almost completely gray now. Her face was lined with grief. She was thin, too thin, as if mourning had eaten her alive from the inside. Mama, I whispered. Her head snapped up. She stared at me, her eyes widening as recognition dawned. Aria? She breathed. No, you died. You're dead. I mourned you. I survived, I said, and tears burned my eyes. The moon goddess saved me, Mama. I survived. My mother screamed, a sound of pure joy and anguish mixed together. She tried to run to me, but she couldn't move, still held by divine command. "Release her," I said, lifting the divine hold on just my mother. She ran to me and threw her arms around me, sobbing hysterically. "You're alive. You're alive. My baby is alive." I held her tight, feeling 10 years of grief pour out of her. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry I couldn't come back sooner. But I had to get strong enough first. Strong enough to make sure they can never do this to another child." I gently pulled back from my mother and faced the Alpha. "Alpha Thaddeus," I said, my voice cold. 10 years ago, you sentenced a 12-year-old child to death. You called it mercy, called it mathematics. 1 life for 500. Do you remember?" He couldn't speak. Divine power still held him. But I saw it in his eyes. He remembered. "I'm here to deliver the moon goddess's judgment," I said. "Not just on you, but on every pack that treats children as acceptable sacrifices. On every alpha who decides some lives matter less than others." I released the divine hold on everyone, letting them stand. The alpha rose, his face carefully neutral. The decision was made by the council, not just me. We were following tradition. Tradition, I repeated, letting contempt drip from the word. "You hid behind tradition like a coward. Let me tell you what happened after you left me there, Alpha." I told them everything. The rogues circling. The moment they prepared to tear me apart. The moon goddess descending. How she saved me and transformed me. And then I told them what I'd learned in 10 years. "The rogues you were so afraid of," I said. "They were starving. Their territory had been destroyed by a fire. They came to you begging for help, food, shelter, anything. And you turned them away, told them to respect borders and refuse to share resources." Shocked gasps. "That's why they demanded tribute," I continued. "Not because they were monsters, because you drove them to desperation. And instead of helping them, instead of showing mercy, you chose to sacrifice a child." "That's not true," Elder Marcus protested. "The rogues are dangerous. They would have attacked. Anyway." "Lie," I said simply, and divine power made the word resonate. "I can sense lies now, Elder. That's one of my gifts. So try again. Tell the truth this time." Elder Marcus's mouth opened against his will. "Fine, yes, they came begging. But if we'd helped them, it would have made us look weak. Other packs would have seen it as vulnerability. We couldn't afford that." The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. "You let a child die," I said, walking toward him slowly. "Because you were worried about looking weak?" "One child versus the entire pack's reputation," Marcus said, then seemed to realize what he'd admitted. "I mean, I know exactly what you meant," I said. I stopped in front of him. "Tell me, Elder, if you could go back, would you choose differently?" He hesitated. I felt the battle in him, wanting to lie but divine power compelling truth. "No," he finally said. "I'd make the same choice. The pack must come first. Always. Even if it means sacrificing innocence." There, it was. No remorse, no growth. Just the same cruelty that had tried to kill me. "Then you're unworthy of leadership," I said. I placed my hand on his chest. "By the authority granted to me by the moon goddess, I strip you of your position on the council." Divine light flared. Elder Marcus screamed as his authority was ripped away. Not his wolf, just the power and respect that came with his rank. When I stepped back, he collapsed, gasping. I turned to the Alpha. "And you, Thaddeus?" He looked at me with something that might have been regret. "If I could go back," he said slowly, "I would search harder for another solution. I would try to help the rogues instead of seeing them as enemies. But Lady Aria, I need you to understand. I made the choice I thought would save the most lives. By sacrificing the most innocent, I said. Yes, he admitted. And I've carried that guilt every day for 10 years. Your mother... He glanced at her. She became a ghost, stopped eating, stopped speaking. I watched her wither, and I knew it was my fault. I studied him, feeling for truth. He was being honest. He regretted it. Not because he thought it was wrong, but because he'd seen the cost. That's not enough, I said. Regret without change is meaningless. So here's what's going to happen. You remain alpha for now, but under divine supervision. I'm reforming Redwood Pack's laws. No more child sacrifices. No more deciding some lives are expendable. No more treating Omegas as less than. And if I refuse, he asked, then I remove you the same way I removed Marcus, I said simply. Your choice, Alpha. Lead with justice, or be replaced. He looked around at his pack, at the faces watching this confrontation. Then he dropped to one knee. I accept, he said. Redwood Pack will follow the Divine Judge's reforms. The pack erupted into cheers, especially the Omegas, who'd been watching with hope blazing in their eyes. But I wasn't done. There's one more thing, I said. I focused on Riker, the young guard who'd chained me to that post 10 years ago. He was 29 now, a full warrior, and I could see the guilt eating him alive. Riker, I called out. Step forward. He did, his face pale. I know I deserve punishment, Lady Aria. I should have refused the order. Should have fought to save you. I was a coward. You were 19, I interrupted, following orders from your alpha. And you asked me to tell my mother I was brave. Do you remember? He nodded, tears in his eyes. That small kindness, I said, mattered more than you know. It meant that in my last moments as a terrified child, someone saw me as a person. Someone cared. I walked to him. You carry guilt, Riker. I can feel it. It's eating you alive. I should carry it, he said. I helped kill you. You helped the system kill me, I corrected. But you were also a victim of that system. So here's what I'm offering. Redemption. Work with me. Help me reform the packs. Make sure no other child faces what I faced. Turn your guilt into action. He stared at me. You'd forgive me? I'd give you the chance to be better, I said. That's what divine justice is about. Not revenge, transformation. Can you accept that? Yes, he said immediately, dropping to one knee. I swear, Lady Aria, I'll spend my life protecting children, making sure no one else has to endure what you did. I touched his shoulder. Then rise. You're one of mine now. As Riker stood, I felt something shift in the air. The moon goddess's presence, subtle but there. Well done, daughter, her voice whispered in my mind. You chose mercy where vengeance would have been easier. You're becoming exactly what I needed. That night, my mother insisted I stay at her home, the small cottage where I'd grown up. I can't believe you're here, she said for the 100th time, touching my face as if to make sure I was real. I thought I'd never see you again. I wanted to come back sooner, I said. But I had to be ready, Mama. Had to be strong enough to face them. You're so different, she said, studying me. Still my daughter, but more. The moon goddess changed you. She saved me, I said. And then she gave me a purpose. My mother was quiet for a moment. Then, are you going to kill them? The Alpha? The Council? The ones who voted to sacrifice you? No, I said. Because that wouldn't change anything. It would just make me like them, choosing murder as a solution. I need to change the system, not just punish individuals. You're wiser than I was at your age, my mother said. Wiser than most adults I know. I had a good teacher, I said. Elena, the woman who ran the Haven. She taught me that justice isn't about making yourself feel better. It's about protecting others from feeling the pain you felt. My mother hugged me tight. I'm so proud of you, baby. So proud. We held each other for a long time, and for the first time in 10 years, I felt like I was home. Chapter 3. The Wolf, who tried to save me. Over the next few weeks, I worked to reform Redwood Pack from the inside. New laws were established. No wolf under 16 could be exiled or sacrificed for any reason. Omegas had equal representation in pack decisions. Any pack member could appeal to the divine judge if they felt mistreated. Disputes with neighboring packs had to be resolved through mediation before violence. It was slow work. Some pack members embraced the changes. Others resented them. And through it all, Riker was there. He'd taken his vow seriously. He worked constantly, training young wolves in defense, establishing patrols to protect vulnerable pack members, mediating disputes. And he was always near me. Not in an intrusive way, but present, protective. You don't have to guard me, I told him one afternoon. We were walking through the forest, checking the new border markers. I know, he said, but I want to. Why? I asked. You've already proven yourself. I've accepted you as one of my wolves. You don't owe me constant vigilance. Riker was quiet for a moment. Then, do you remember what you said to me that night? When I chained you to that post? I remembered. I asked you to tell my mother I was brave. You were 12 years old, he said, his voice rough with emotion. 12. About to be torn apart by rogues. And you weren't thinking about yourself. You were thinking about your mother. About making sure she knew you died bravely so she'd have some comfort. He stopped walking and turned to face me. That moment has haunted me for 10 years, Lady Aria. I've replayed it 1,000 times, wishing I'd been braver. Wishing I'd refused the order. Wishing I'd cut you free and run with you. You were following orders, I said gently. That's not an excuse, he said. Good wolves sometimes have to disobey bad orders. I know that now. But I was a coward then. You're not a coward now, I pointed out. Because you gave me a second chance, he said. You showed me mercy when you could have destroyed me, and I'm not going to waste that gift. There was something in his voice, something more than just gratitude. Riker, I said carefully, is there something you're not saying? He hesitated. Then, the night you returned, when I saw you standing in that clearing, alive and powerful and beautiful, something in me recognized you. Not just as the child I'd failed, but as more. My heart skipped. More? I think... He swallowed hard. I think you're my mate, Lady Aria. I felt it the moment our eyes met. The bond trying to form. But I don't know if you felt it. And even if you did, I'd understand if you rejected it. After what I did to you, I'd understand if... Stop, I said. He fell silent, looking miserable. I took a breath, examining my own feelings, and I realized I had felt something, a pull toward him, a connection that went beyond gratitude or forgiveness, the mate bond. I felt it too, I admitted. Hope flared in his eyes. But Riker, I continued. I need you to understand something. I'm not the same as other wolves. My life is dangerous. I'm the divine judge. I'll make enemies. I'll face battles. And anyone bonded to me becomes a target. I don't care, he said immediately. You should, I said, because I've already lost too much. Already spent 10 years away from my mother because staying would have gotten her killed. I can't bond with you and then watch you die because someone wants to hurt me. Then we'll face it together, Riker said, stepping closer. Aria, I failed you once. I won't fail you again. Let me stand with you. Let me protect you while you protect others. I looked into his gray eyes and saw absolute certainty. The moon goddess chose you for me, he said softly. Maybe because she knew I needed a chance to prove I could be better. Maybe because she knew you needed someone who understood guilt and redemption. I don't know, but I feel it, Aria. This bond. And I want it. If you'll have me. I should have been cautious, should have made him wait, should have tested him more. But 10 years of being alone, of never letting anyone close because trust had been shattered at 12 years old. 10 years of that was enough. Yes, I said. I'll accept the bond. Riker's face transformed with joy. He cupped my face gently. Are you sure? I'm sure, I said. He kissed me. The mate bond snapped fully into place. I felt him, his strength, his guilt that was transforming into purpose, his absolute devotion. And he felt me, my power, my pain, my determination to make the world better. When we pulled apart, we were both glowing faintly with silver light, the bond marking us as connected. Well, I said breathlessly, that was everything, he finished. We stood there in the forest, holding each other, and for the first time since I was 12, I felt safe. Not because I needed protection. I was the divine judge. I could protect myself. But because I wasn't alone anymore. Chapter 4. The Past Returns. 3 months after I arrived at Redwood Pack, a messenger came from the rogue pack that had demanded my sacrifice. They wanted to meet. It's probably a trap, Marcus warned. He'd become my unofficial second-in-command, strategizing defenses and training programs. Probably, I agreed, but I need to face them anyway. Then I'm coming with you, Riker said immediately. As am I, Lydia added. And Finn, and Marcus, you're not going alone. I smiled. I have the best pack. We traveled to the border where I'd been chained 10 years ago. The post was still there, weathered and gray. Seeing it made my chest tight with remembered terror. You okay? Riker asked, taking my hand. No, I admitted, but I'll manage. 6 wolves emerged from the trees on the other side of the border. When they shifted to human form, I recognized one of them. The scarred man who'd taunted me before the moon goddess appeared. But he looked different now. His eyes were clear instead of bloodshot. His face showed intelligence instead of manic cruelty. Divine Judge, he said, kneeling immediately. The others followed. Stand, I said. Why did you want to meet? The scarred man rose. My name is Garrett. 10 years ago, I tried to kill you. I wanted you to know that you were just meat to be torn apart before we ate you. I was a monster. I remember, I said. The moon goddess changed us that night, he continued. When she appeared, she didn't just save you. She saved us too. Purged the bloodlust from our minds. Made us wolves again instead of whatever we'd become. He gestured to his companions. These are my pack now. Former rogues, all of us. We've spent 10 years trying to atone. Building a settlement. Helping other rogues find stability. Trying to be better. Why tell me this? I asked. Because you deserve to know, Garrett said. And because we wanted to ask, formally, if Shadow Creek Pack can ally with the Divine Judge. We want to be part of the reformed packs. Want to follow your laws. I studied him, feeling for lies. There were none. You tried to kill a child, I said bluntly. I did, he agreed, shame coloring his voice. And I'd understand if you refused. If you wanted to punish us, we deserve it. What would punishment accomplish? I asked. The moon goddess already judged you. She gave you a second chance. Who am I to revoke that? Hope flickered in Garrett's eyes. Shadow Creek Pack, I said formally. I accept your alliance. Under divine law, you're protected. No pack can attack you or label you as dangerous rogues. You have legitimate standing. All 6 former rogues dropped to their knees again, this time in gratitude. Thank you, Garrett said, his voice breaking. Thank you for seeing past what we were to what we're trying to become. After they left, Riker pulled me aside. That was incredibly brave, he said. Or incredibly foolish. I can't decide which. Maybe both, I admitted. But the moon goddess gave them a second chance. How could I do less? Because you're kind, Riker said, kissing my temple. Kinder than most people deserve. Everyone deserves kindness, I said, until they prove they'll just use it as a weapon. Over the next 6 months, word spread about the divine judge. Packs from across the region sent representatives, some to pledge alliance, some to test whether I was really as powerful as the stories claimed, and some to challenge me. Alpha Darius from Bloodfang Pack was one of the challengers. He arrived with 20 warriors, demanded an audience, and immediately tried to dominate. I don't recognize divine authority, he declared. The moon goddess gave us the gift of shifting, but that doesn't mean she gets to control how we use it. You're just a wolf with fancy powers trying to impose your will. Then you're welcome to refuse my authority, I said calmly. I'm not here to conquer packs. But tell me, Alpha Darius, how do you treat your omegas? His expression flickered. That's pack business. Which means badly, I said. Divine wolves can sense truth and lies, remember? So let me ask directly. Do you abuse your Omega Pack members? He said nothing. I'll take that as yes, I continued. And here's the thing, Alpha. I don't need to conquer you. But if I hear reports of Omegas being mistreated in your pack, if children are being harmed, if vulnerable wolves are being exploited, I will intervene. Not to take your pack. To protect those you're supposed to be protecting. You have no right. I have every right, I interrupted, letting divine power flare. Because the moon goddess gave it to me. Now, you can choose to lead with justice and compassion. Or you can continue as you are, and eventually face divine judgment. Your choice. Alpha Darius left furious. But 3 weeks later, I received reports that he'd started treating his Omegas better. Not out of kindness, out of fear. That's not real change, Lydia observed. No, I agreed. But it's a start. Sometimes wolves need to be afraid before they can learn to be better. Chapter 5. The Price of Power. Not everything went smoothly. 6 months after my return, an assassination attempt nearly succeeded. I was visiting a neighboring pack when 3 wolves attacked. They had silver weapons, illegal in most territories because of how badly they hurt shifters, and they coordinated their assault perfectly. If Riker hadn't thrown himself between me and the silver blade, it would have pierced my heart. Instead, it pierced his. No! I screamed as he collapsed. Divine power exploded from me. The 3 assassins were thrown back, slamming into trees with bone-breaking force. I didn't care if they lived or died. All I cared about was Riker, bleeding on the ground, silver poisoning spreading through his chest. Stay with me, I begged, my hands glowing with healing light. Please, Riker, don't leave me. Aria, he gasped, blood on his lips. I love you. I had to. Shut up, I sobbed, pouring divine healing into his wound. Just shut up and let me work. The silver was fighting my healing. Silver nullified divine power, made it harder to reach the damaged tissue. But I didn't stop. I pushed harder, ignoring the exhaustion, ignoring the pain feedback through our bond. Finally, the wound began to close. The silver poison purged from his system. His heartbeat steadied. Riker gasped, his eyes opening. You're okay, I said, crying in relief. You're okay. I told you, he managed weakly. I'd never fail you again. Later, after Riker was stable and resting, I interrogated one of the surviving assassins. "Who sent you?" I demanded. The man tried to resist, but divine authority was absolute. "Council of Alphas," he gasped out against his will. 12 of them. They hired us. Said the divine judge was too dangerous. Had to be eliminated before she grew more powerful. Ice ran through my veins. "Which alphas?" He listed them. 12 names. Leaders of packs across the region. They'd formed a secret alliance to kill me. "They're afraid," Marcus said when I told him. "You're threatening their power structure. So they're trying to eliminate you before you can fully reform the system." "Then we go to war," Lydia said fiercely. "No," I said. "That's what they want. If I attack first, I look like a tyrant, like I'm using divine power to dominate instead of protect." "So what do we do?" Finn asked. I thought about it, about everything Elena had taught me, about justice versus vengeance. "We expose them," I said, publicly. "Show every wolf in their packs what their leaders tried to do. Let the packs decide if they want to keep following alphas who hire assassins to murder divine judges." It took 2 weeks to gather all the evidence. Confessions from the assassins, records of payments, messages between the 12 conspiring alphas. Then I called a grand assembly, a gathering of all allied packs plus the 12 conspirators. Over 1,000 wolves assembled in neutral territory. I stood on a raised platform, Riker at my side, still recovering but refusing to stay behind, and presented the evidence. "These 12 alphas," I said, pointing them out, "hired assassins to murder me. Not because I attacked them, not because I threatened their packs, but because I represent change they don't want. Because protecting Omegas and preventing child sacrifices threatens their power." I played the recorded confessions, showed the payment records, let their own wolves see what their leaders had done. The reaction was explosive. Wolves from the conspirators' packs were shocked, angry, betrayed. Many demanded their alphas step down immediately. "I could execute them," I said, looking at the 12 alphas who'd tried to kill me. "Divine authority gives me that power, but I'm not here to rule through fear." I turned to address all the assembled wolves. "Instead, I'm giving each pack a choice. Keep your current alpha if you trust them. Or choose new leadership. The decision is yours. I will not force it." Over the next week, 8 of the 12 conspirator alphas were removed by their own packs. The other 4 managed to keep their positions by swearing public oaths to follow divine law. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. "You showed mercy again," Riker said that night as we lay together, his chest still bandaged. "Even to wolves who tried to kill you." "Because executing them would have made me like them," I said, choosing murder as a solution. I can't reform a violent system by being violent. "You're going to change the world," Riker said, pulling me close. "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I'll just make it a little less cruel." Chapter 6. The Mother's Gift. 2 years after my return, my mother became ill. It started small, a cough that wouldn't go away. But it progressed quickly. Within months, she was bedridden, her body failing. "It's grief sickness," the pack healer told me. 10 years of mourning you ate away, at her body. Even though you're back, the damage was done. "I'm sorry, Lady Aria. There's nothing I can do." "Can't you heal her?" Riker asked me desperately. "You have divine power. You healed me from a silver blade to the heart." "Divine healing works on wounds," I said, my voice breaking. "On damage that can be fixed. But this is her body shutting down. It's too far gone." I sat by my mother's bedside every day, holding her hand. "I'm sorry," she said one afternoon, her voice weak. "I'm sorry I don't have more time with you." "Don't apologize," I said, tears streaming down my face. "You have nothing to apologize for. I do, she insisted. I couldn't protect you when you were 12, couldn't stop them from taking you. I've carried that guilt. It wasn't your fault, I interrupted. You were an Omega with no power. You couldn't have stopped the Alpha in Council. No one expected you to. Still, she said, I wish I'd tried harder, fought more. Something. She touched my face gently. But look at you now. My little girl became the divine judge, became strong enough to protect everyone I couldn't protect. I'm so proud of you, Aria. Don't talk like you're saying goodbye, I begged. I am, baby, she said gently. My body is done. I can feel it. But I'm not afraid. Because I know you'll be okay. You have Riker. You have your pack. You have your purpose. She smiled. And you know what? I think the moon goddess planned all of this. The sacrifice, your survival, everything. Because the world needed you. And maybe I needed to let you go so you could become who you're meant to be. I don't want to let you go, I sobbed. I know, she said. But you will. Because you're strong, Aria. Stronger than anyone I've ever known. My mother died 3 days later, peacefully in her sleep, with me holding her hand. The pack held a funeral. Hundreds of wolves came, not just from Redwood, but from all the packs I'd helped. And as they burned her body on a funeral pyre, traditional for wolves, I felt the moon goddess's presence. She's with me now, the goddess whispered in my mind. At peace. Proud of her daughter. Take care of her, I whispered to the sky. Always, the goddess promised. After the funeral, Riker found me sitting by the lake, staring at nothing. I'm sorry, he said, sitting beside me. She spent 10 years thinking I was dead, I said. 10 years of grief that destroyed her body. If I'd come back sooner, you wouldn't have been ready, Riker interrupted gently. And you might have gotten her killed. Aria, you made the right choice. It was just, the cost was high. Too high, I said. Maybe, he agreed. But she saw you before she died. Saw what you became. Got 2 years with her daughter alive and powerful. That's more than she thought she'd ever have. He was right. But it still hurt. How do you keep doing this? I asked. Carrying so much pain and still moving forward? Because the alternative is giving up, Riker said. And giving up means all the pain was for nothing. So we carry it. We transform it into purpose. We make sure others don't suffer the same way. I leaned against him. When did you get so wise? When I bonded with a divine judge, he said, kissing the top of my head. Chapter 7. 5 years of reform. 5 years after my return, the wolf world had changed. 23 packs had officially allied with the divine judge. Another 15 followed divine law even without formal alliance. Child sacrifices had dropped to 0. Omega rights were protected across most territories. Disputes were settled through mediation before violence. It wasn't perfect. There were still cruel alphas. Still wolves who abused their power. Still injustices that needed addressing. But it was better. I stood in the Grand Assembly Hall, a neutral territory I'd established for pack councils, looking out at hundreds of representatives. 5 years ago, I said, I returned from 10 years of exile, a child who'd been sacrificed, and I came back with a simple message. No more. No more treating some lives as expendable. No more hiding behind tradition to justify cruelty. No more choosing power over compassion. I paused, letting them see me. Powerful but not dominating. Firm but not tyrannical. Today, I'm announcing the formation of the Council of Divine Law, a governing body made up of representatives from every allied pack. Their job is to enforce the reforms we've fought for, to investigate complaints of abuse, to mediate disputes, to ensure that divine law is followed even when I'm not there to enforce it personally. This was the goal. creating a system that could function without me. Because I couldn't be everywhere. Couldn't solve every problem personally. I'm still the divine judge, I continued. But I'm building something that will outlast me. A structure of justice that doesn't depend on one wolf's power. That's how we create lasting change. The assembly voted overwhelmingly in favor. The Council of Divine Law was established, with representatives from all allied packs, balanced to include alphas, betas, and omegas. It was revolutionary. After the assembly, Riker found me in our chambers. "You did it," he said, pulling me into his arms. 5 years of work, and you actually changed the system. "We changed it," I corrected. "I couldn't have done any of this alone." "Still," he said, "the scared 12-year-old who was left to die is now the wolf who reformed an entire society. That's incredible." "That 12-year-old died," I said softly. "In those woods, when the rogues circled, when I thought no one was coming to save me. She died." "And?" Riker prompted. "And something better was born," I finished. "Something strong enough to make sure no other child has to die like she almost did." Riker kissed me deeply. "I love you." "I love you too," I said, and for the first time in years, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could rest. The work wasn't done. Would never truly be done, but it was sustainable now. The structure was in place. I'd kept my promise to the moon goddess. I'd chosen justice over vengeance, reform over revenge, protection over punishment, and the world was better for it. Epilogue: the child who became legend. 10 years after my return, 20 years after my sacrifice, I stood at the border where I'd been chained as a child. The wooden post was gone now. In its place stood a monument, a stone marker carved with words. Here, a child was sacrificed. Here, a judge was born. May no child ever face this fate again. Beneath it, the names of every child who'd been sacrificed by any pack in the last century. Dozens of names, dozens of lives deemed expendable. But the list ended with mine. Because after me, there were no more. "How does it feel?" Riker asked, standing beside me. We'd been mated for 8 years now, and I was pregnant with our first child, a daughter we'd name Elena, after the woman who taught me everything. Strange, I admitted, seeing my name on a memorial, like I'm dead and alive at the same time. "You did die," Riker said. "The scared child they chained to that post died, and the divine judge was born." I touched the stone marker, feeling the names carved there. All those children, all that wasted potential. "They won't be forgotten," I said. "As long as this monument stands, they'll be remembered." A voice came from behind us. Young. Nervous. "Lady Aria?" I turned to find a teenage girl, maybe 14, with dark hair and frightened eyes. "Yes," I said gently. "I'm from Blackwater Pack," she said, "and I need help. My alpha wants to exile my younger brother. Says he's defective because he can't shift yet. He's only 11, and they're not going to do anything," I said firmly, "because I'm going to visit Blackwater Pack, and I'm going to make it very clear that exiling children is not acceptable under divine law." The girl's face flooded with relief. Thank you so much." After she left, Riker smiled at me. "You can't help yourself, can you? Even pregnant, you're ready to face down another alpha." "The work is never done," I said. "There will always be wolves who need protecting. Always alphas who need reminding that power is a responsibility, not a right." "Then it's good you're not alone anymore," Riker said, touching my belly where our daughter grew. "We're building something, Aria. Not just laws or councils, but a legacy. Our daughter will grow up in a world where she's valued, where her life matters, where no one can sacrifice her and call it mercy." I leaned against him, looking at the monument. They tried to kill me when I was 12, I said. Chained me in a forest and left me to be torn apart. Thought they were solving a problem, getting rid of a burden. I smiled. They didn't know they were creating their own judgment. Didn't know the moon goddess was watching. Didn't know that some wolves don't die. They evolve. Riker kissed my temple. The child they sacrificed became the legend that saved them all. Yes, I agreed. She did. And as the sun set on that memorial, casting golden light across the names of sacrificed children, I made a silent promise. No more names would be added. Not while the divine judge lived. Not while the scarred 12-year-old who died in these woods 20 years ago lived on in the powerful woman who'd emerged from that death. They'd tried to sacrifice the Omega child to save themselves. Instead, they'd created the wolf who would save everyone. The end. If you enjoy this story, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more interesting story.